Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host, Lockefox, and we have a surprising amount of news to cover this week, despite it being kind of a slow release week. So let me go ahead and get this show started with our basic show information to start. And a bit of a change of pace, we're going to be looking at the Amar undock because I had a character there. So this is another reminder to come join me if you guys want to interact with me off the air. The best place to do that is in the Tweetfleet Slack server. Information is in the channel below. Come join the Prosper channel and we can discuss market stuff, and you'll get notifications when we're going live and when stuff goes up in the goes up on YouTube and in the blog. That's where it'll all be posted. Also, I know that I missed last week's, but we are publishing a podcast feed. Check out the blog at eveprosper.com to get subscription information there. I'll be pushing out the shows there as well. I also have CCP Quant's interview in the can. I just haven't had a chance to push release. Also, if you guys want to support the show, be sure to stop by patreon.com/eveprosper. We've had a lot of generous patrons this week. No new ones to name, but that's fine. If you want to chip in beer money for the guys who help produce this show, it is not just me. We sincerely appreciate it, but if you don't or can't, we will continue to provide the content out there for everyone without gating it, so you'll never miss a show. And the last thing is that we will have no show next week. I'm going to be out of town next weekend, and I just won't be able to do the show for you guys. We'll be back the following week, same time, same day of the week. So tune in then, and I'll see if I can get something supplemental out. If there's any particularly big news, I will publish it on one of the feeds. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the news. The news was pretty interesting this week. Fozzie released the mining yields for ores, and I haven't had a chance to walk through them, but I sincerely endorse New Janico on Twitter's feed. He does a mineral index tracking that tracks this kind of thing, and he's been keeping a very close eye on it. So if you can't get it from me, I would go to get it from him. Also, Hydrostatic Podcast had another lore panel this last week, and it was quite a show. We had a much larger panel than usual, and we got through a lot of really great Jove and Sleeper stuff ahead of the Entosis release coming up here real soon. You guys should really go check it out. It's up on YouTube. If you guys don't want to watch the YouTube, you can also check it out on the Hydrostatic Podcast feed. Everything should be up to date now. We're also probably going to segment out a couple of bits so you guys can get at a couple of the segments we covered just alone. With that, that's pretty much all the news I have this week. I did not have time to follow up all of the null news, and there has been a lot of null news, and it's really doing a disservice, but I just did not have the time to process it this week, so I'm sincerely sorry about that. But let's go ahead and move on to Plex. Now, Plex has been climbing. I know it looks pretty steep in the graph, but that's because the ranges have shortened. We have been on a pretty strong kick up to 810 over the last week and backing off. According to Noisy Gamer, there have been some rustlings in the RMT spheres about it becoming too expensive for them to do the illicit work, and the sanctioned method of using Plex for RMT is just not giving them the margins. I don't know if there's been some new enforcement yet, but we saw a decent tick up over the last week. If we go look at the buy and sell spreads, though, it looks like it's just moving from 800 to 810, so I don't think we're going to climb much higher. I don't think this is a general line trend. I think we're coming from 800, something has changed. Now we're at 810. We might see some activity up towards 820, 825 coming into the patch ahead of the Entosis module release. Or we might see some more action in the token markets, which I'm not tracking yet, but I will have them soon. Those may be seeing some more action ahead of the shipskin changes. Moving on to minerals. Minerals have been have been doing some very interesting things. We'll start at the bottom with titanium, which continues to fall. We were at a strong 6.0 for several months, and now are all the way down to 5.7 or 5.6. Right now, it looks like 5.65 is the floor on this thing, but with this kind of discontinuity where a game change is driving it more than a true activity change is driving it, the floor might be a lot lower. So if you're a gambling man, buy in. If not, then don't. If we look at pyrite, we're seeing we hit a floor at about 12.3 and have bounced up off that floor. I would believe 12.3 to be kind of the floor on this one, but again, it could go either way at this point. I find the weakness in low ends very strange because I don't have a good reason as to why they're really going this way. Like, I don't know if we're talking about high ends going as high as they are, why, if there are less miners in high sec, the price of Trit should go up. But we'll see what's going on here. This requires a little more analysis to see what's going on under the hood. Moving on to the mid-ends, Mexilon continues to fall, and it is way underneath the expected floor of 55. This, again, is probably due to Fozzie's announcement or anticipation for Fozzie's announcement of mineral changes. But I'm not sure exactly what's driving it as low as it is. 54, again, looks like it's bottoming out, but it could go both ways. We could continue to fall. Isogen has stayed relatively stable in comparison. We're seeing it a bit low in comparison, where the 123 price point looks to be about the floor. I would expect this one to trend up slightly maybe, but that's more of a gut feeling than a data one. Noxium was down in the dumps last week, but took a quick tip up, but looks like it's trending back down to the 635 or 638 level. I would expect it to stay at the in the 630s, right around 640 for the next couple of weeks, but this one could definitely pull some surprises, so keep an eye on Noxium. The star player Zydrene looks like it's topping out. I've said for the last couple of weeks that if you were able to play in on the Fozzie speculation, that you should have sold, and at this 1400 level, it looks like it's time to sell. We might be tracking to 1600, but I don't think we'll stay there. We're in pretty unstable territory at the moment, and any change of course will really rock the boat here. So if you're still holding on to Zydrene, sell it off. If you're thinking you can buy in to ride the wave, you're too late. Just don't. Moving on to Megasite. Megasite broke through the 2000 price point and continues to climb. It looks like it might still have a little bit of upward momentum, but again, my advice from the last couple of weeks of get out while the getting's good continues for Megasite. I wouldn't buy in, and I'd sell if I've got it. Morphite has stayed relatively stable. We're tracking slightly up, which is good news in my book. The volumes are looking pretty healthy compared to a rather anemic few months. So I expect Morphite to stay on its track, bounding around 6,500. And then if we look at the buy and sell margins for minerals, you'll see why I'm saying that Zydrine, for instance, looks like it's hit a cap and it's leveling off. But Megasite still looks like it has some climb left in it. So keep an eye on that if you are speculating. If you really have to speculate, I'd speculate in Megasite. Also, if you guys are watching, the falls on Tritanium, Pyrite, and Mexilon are still pretty deep. It looks like there have been some pretty good buy opportunities here. So if you are a brave 0.1 Isker, this might be a place to play around in. Moving on to fuel, we had a couple of surprises. One that helium isotopes took a sharp turn up, crossing the 700 threshold. This is a bit unexpected, seeing as we've seen Minmatar and Amar fuel hanging out in the sub 700 zone for the last few months. It's good to see it back. I don't know if it'll really stay there. If we go and we look at the actual chart, it looks like it might be somewhat speculative. That high price at 750 is completely unsustainable, but we could stay above 700 through the week. We'll see what happens. I kind of expect it to come back down to 680 over the course of the week, but it could stay relatively stable. Moving on to fuel blocks, you'll see that though Amar have tracked up, they have not tracked up nearly as much as the isotopes. So this might be a decent opportunity to go and produce some Amar fuel blocks and turn them around. Otherwise, fuel markets are staying relatively stable. We're seeing a little bit of weakness in the Galente fuel block, though, so just keep an eye on those. The one that kind of surprised me and really shouldn't have if I had actually been paying attention better, strontium clathrates have been tracking up. They tracked up during the FanFest announcements. They tracked up during Fozzie's announcement. They're down slightly, but they're still tracking up pretty high. I expect these to track up towards 500 in the upcoming weeks. Especially as we move into June. This might be a good place to stock up somewhat. I don't know if it has a lot of room to grow still, but it definitely has some amount of play to move up, and it moves enough volume that you could speculate in it and actually get in and out of the market reasonably easily. And then another one that I thought was a bit interesting is the Galente Federation Starbase charters. I usually wouldn't bring these up, but it looks like there's been a lot of price instability where buy and sell orders are at a pretty wide margin. We're tracking up to 4,000 a charter at the moment, and that seems ridiculously high, especially with this recent spike of action here. It looks like a sales dump, but just keep an eye on there. If you need Galente Federation Starbase charters, look twice before you go and you buy them. Moving on to outliers, let's get started where we usually start in the moon markets. Ferrogel was tracking up pretty strongly. Not exactly sure why. We're not seeing a lot of volume driving here. Looks like we spiked into unstable territory and are coming back down under the 30K mark. I would expect it to be back under the 30K mark in the week. I don't expect it to keep that 32K high at all. There wasn't a lot else to report in Moon products, but the P4s were really interesting this week. I have been saying, and I might be a crazy person here, that P4s are worth speculating in because we expect them to see more usage through the SOV upgrade system. We don't know yet. It's a complete gamble in the dark. But this is one of the ones I have hinted at, that if you wanted to look brilliant and make a bunch of money, this was a good place to bet. Now, we keep seeing weakness in especially broadcast nodes and... Oops, I didn't have the other one in here. We keep seeing weakness in like the broadcast nodes, and all the other P4s are showing similar weakness. Now, this could be a general weakness in PI washing through the system. We saw over the last few weeks that P2s and P1s have been really weak, coming up through the P3s, and now they might be washing out of the P4s. But it looks like we're going to continue to have low prices until we actually see the SOV upgrade information come out. So I still think it's a decent place to bet, but it's a really risky bet. So don't bet what you can't lose on this one. Moving down the chain to coolant, which has been falling for the last few weeks, has finally started to turn around. We saw it dip under the 7,500 mark, but has since recovered and is bouncing back reasonably well. I still think it's a pretty poor PI option at the moment, but it looks like it's climbing up. Its climb up to 8,000 might be it for this week, and we might see another surge into the following weekend. But we'll just have to keep an eye on this one. Also, mechanical parts, which has seen a similar weakness, have also seen a similar recovery up to 8,000. Again, same thing as coolant. I expect these two PI products to be best buds, and whatever one does, the other should follow. Moving on to robotics, we saw some severe weakness last week, which has since recovered. We saw it dip down into the 66K mark, and we're tracking back up to 70K. If you're holding on to robotics, I would hold out until 70K. It looks like it still has room to climb, but I would get out if it starts losing price again around 68K. Oh, this is the one that's out of order. Organic mortar applicators is the other P4 I was thinking was in the other slide. And we're seeing some severe weakness here. I don't have the recipe for these handy, so it might just be that the subcomponents are driving this. But again, I'm going to continue with my buy status. I think that these are going to be a place that'll turn around once announcements come out. But once those announcements come out, the action's going to be over. So just keep that in mind. If you want to bet. If you don't, just steer clear. Moving on to ships, we've seen some interesting strength in the pirate battleship markets. We're looking right now at the Balgorn, which took a big jump up a couple weeks ago and has stayed relatively strong. Now, this probably has to do with the added cost of materials, but this looks like a lot more movement than just the cost of materials. So these ones are a decent one to keep an eye out for. I know a buddy of mine has been building them and pocketing a pretty decent margin for doing so. Also, the Vindicator took a decent snap up over the last couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to climb much higher, but I think it's interesting that we see it at one price, and then we have Fozzie's announcement, and we're locked into a new price. So this might be just tracking the new mineral costs. Moving on, Raptors have been particularly weak this week. Not sure why. The volumes still look pretty healthy, but the prices continue to fall. This might be a turnaround from the metamaterial bubbles popping, but this looks like more falling than just the price of components. This looks more like fire sale behavior. So this might be fallout from the Brave failscade. It might be from any of the other failscades over the last 2 weeks. Not really sure what's driving it, just that Raptors are low. I would end up I'd keep these on my radar to buy. I think that it's a pretty decent place to get them if you are in the market for them. But the prices are low, and I don't think they're going to turn around this week. Another interesting one that keyed the metrics was the Claymore. We've seen it stay relatively stable, and then it's been tracking the weakness in the moon markets lately, and then it took a big jump down. It looks like there may have been some oops sales here, but we've since turned around. I don't know if this particular event triggered someone to start doing something differently or get a builder or two out of the market, but we're tracking back up. I expect it to peak back up to, what is that, 270 million over the next week, but I don't expect it to get much higher than that. In fact, we might see it bounce up and down a couple of times over the upcoming weeks. Another interesting fall for ships is the broadsword is trending way lower. This is a popular Hictor, I know, for shield fleets. It looks like the volume is particularly low at the moment. We might be seeing either a production glut or a fire sale driving the prices down. If you're in the market for broadswords, this would be a great time to buy. But do expect the prices to stay depressed for up to 2 months. So this might be a long-term investment if you're into that. I also keep in mind that only about 10 a day sell. So don't go crazy buying up every broadsword you can find, but this might be a decent place to move a little bit of money. Another one that keeps on trucking is the Echelon. I brought this up last week as a catch I should have caught for some of the other spikes we've seen, and it just keeps tracking up. I don't know what is driving the current speculation. I never thought it was that great a ship. It doesn't really have a roll bonus the way a lot of the other special edition ships have. But it keeps tracking higher. I'm wondering if I'll have to go investigate this further. There might be a piece of this that I'm not seeing. Another one that is interesting, only that it's going the wrong direction, is the Fenrir, and this is probably due to weakness in the low-end minerals. I expect the other freighters to follow. I just thought it was interesting that it has fallen so far so fast. I know it's not a ton of margin, but these tend to be reasonably stable. It looks like we can fall all the way down to 1.28 billion. I'd keep a close eye on this one, especially if you can track the production price. If we get anywhere near parity, I would buy and hold on to them. Again, not a lot of these sell every day, 6 to 10. So this one is a bit of a long bet. If you're in the production market and you are playing some of the low-end drops, this might be a decent place to buy up low ends, especially if you believe that Burn Jita is next week. Sit on those, get them produced into freighters. Burn Jita happens, mineral prices spike up. You unload your Fenrirs you unload your freighters for a cool extra 5% margin. This might be a decent place to do mineral speculation. Moving on, I pointed out last week that Federation Navy 10 meganewton afterburners and a couple of the data cores were tracking particularly low. It kind of looks like a Gal Faction Warfare cash out. Have no real data to back that up, but we're tracking pretty low. If you're in the market for a Fed Navy 10 meganewton afterburner, or any of the other Galente faction mods, this might be a decent chance to get out there on the market. Also, this might have no, never mind. It probably has nothing to do with the Tiricide changes. Another interesting one that I probably should have caught last week is the sinusoidal field generators are tracking up way high. They have increased substantially in price. Now, this probably has a bunch to do with the high-end mineral content, but we've added $500,000 a unit to the price of these things. It also might have something to do with the new drifters shooting down sinos, and some speculation around that kind of thing. This particular price looks like some sort of buyout, so I expect it to track back down to 1.2, but you might actually be able to make a couple of bucks producing it. Unfortunately, I don't have that data in this chart, and I don't have it handy. Moving on down the modules, the improved Guy's cloaking device, which I know only sells a couple a day, has been going a little bit bonkers. It looks like somebody bought out a decent amount of stock and reset the prices. And if you had one or you're in that market, you're trying desperately to sell, I would expect this actually to end up overcorrecting in the upcoming weeks. So keep an eye on this if you want to play that kind of market. This is extremely risky, extremely low volume, but I thought this was an interesting ping to highlight. The prices should track down, and I expect them to overcorrect. Another one is the Tachyon Beam Laser 2s have been tracking up way high for the week. It looks like somebody might have changed a doctrine or done a big buyout. Production may have met the demand, though, so we're seeing the price come falling back down. No reason to expect it wouldn't go right back down to the stable steady state price. I believe that's $4 million. But we might see this might be an opportunity for either overcorrection or to come back up to the 5.5 million level. Next, we're going to talk about a couple of drones the Gecko has been tracking up, and this might be some stocking up. It might be a little bit of scarcity. Not sure where the market's going to go in the long run. The signal is weak that it is going to keep climbing, but geckos are kind of a weird fish for this, so keep a close eye. Ogres, though, have been tracking up substantially, and they're way into unstable territory. So these I expect to come right back down, but we might also see an overcorrection. So just keep an eye on these. They might be a decent buy in the upcoming week. They may decay normally, though, through they may just decay normally rather than bouncing around wildly. Another interesting one, I know the volumes, again, aren't very high, and I just thought this was interesting. It's MultiFrequency extra large. I find this interesting for a few reasons. One, it looks like somebody was buying out some serious volume over the last couple of weeks, perhaps causing some scarcity. Also, the mineral price spike should be driving some of this. But if you are in a capital and you need multi-frequency, why wouldn't you buy Sancha multi-frequency extra large? The faction ammo for Dreads and Titans is really not that bad a price point for the utility you get. So find this one interesting. If you can jump in on it, I guess go for it. This will probably pop over the upcoming week. I just thought it was an interesting one to end up flagging. Another one that has been unstable has been the Sovereignty blockade unit. This probably has to do with the changing of guard in Fountain and Delve with N3's Fail Cascade and Brave just announcing today that they are heading out to Fountain, leaking today that they're heading out to Fountain. So I kind of expect the action to be done here, but the wake that it leaves should ripple back down to the P4 market, hopefully in the upcoming weeks. CCP also has not directly announced a plan yet about what they're doing with SBUs that are left over. So this is another risky gamble as we head into the last, 12 weeks until we see FuzzySov. So just keep an eye on here. Things might get down to a fire sale price. Watch the dev blogs. We'll see what happens. With that, we head into the last part of the show where I go and I see how good or bad I am at these predictions by checking the flags from this week against the ones from last week. First, I want to start with the Noctis I pinged for tracking up. Not sure if this is all minerals or not. We saw a very quick drop down, perhaps a large amount of buy orders fulfilling. I'm not exactly sure why this particular discontinuity is here. But the prices stay relatively high, so keep an eye on this if you're a producer. It might be worth your time. If you don't already have the blueprint, though, it's probably not going to work out. Also, I brought up Domination Stasis Webifiers last week, saying that they were in competition with the Fed Navy ones. And we've since seen the prices track back down to their pre-bubble levels. So looks like the action's over there. Looks like I may have called it, but I didn't actually call the important part, which was the rise. Another Webifier, right, this is the other Webifier, was the True Sanchez Stasis Webifier, is also tracking down. It looks a little overcorrected at the moment, but it also looks like it has some more room to fall. So this one is another good speculation target in the upcoming weeks. Again, not a lot of volume to be done here, anywhere between 10 and 20 sell a day, so I wouldn't get too crazy, but just keep an eye on it. Also, I've been tracking for the last 2 weeks the Genolution Core Augmentation CA1 and 2 implants. We saw a spike up in their value, and then they've been slowly losing value because of the pilot license extension offers that were all going around FanFest. We saw a big dip in the last couple of weeks, but it looks like we're normalizing again. I expect these to start climbing in price, but extremely slowly, so I wouldn't speculate on them. But if you need a couple for some burner alts, this is exactly the time to go buy them. Looking at the CA2, again, we see the same pattern where we saw a big drop off in the last 2 weeks and a slow rise back up moving forward. So, again, I expect them to climb. I don't expect them to be a good place to put your money, but I do expect them, if you need them, to go buy them. And with that, we're going to actually wrap up the show a little earlier than usual. I've been your host, Lockefox, and thanks again for tuning in. If you guys want to follow the show, you can subscribe to us. All you have to remember is Eve Prosper. That'll get you to YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and the blog. If you want to chat with me off the air, you should come join us in the Tweetfleet Slack server. Information is in the channel info pane below. If you want to support the show and the work of not just me, but the other partners who help produce this show, consider dropping a couple of bucks in our tip jar over at our Patreon site at patreon.com/EveProsper. We won't be gating any content, but every dollar there is greatly appreciated. If you guys want to tune in live, we're on Twitch at Eve Prosper every Friday from 0200 to about 0330. We will not have a show next week. That's April 23rd, but we will be back the following week. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This has been the Eve Prosper Show, and I have been your host, Lockefox, and I will see you on the next show.